people need 6 months to move, easily, if not more.
The surest, most effective way to deliver predictability to tenants is to increase the supply of housing.
I urge all of you voting on this, remember how much it would hurt you to try to pay for the cost of move today.
A heavily debated topic on the table at tonight's City Council meeting, rent price in city limits. Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Spokane City Council talked about new ways to protect renters. The ordinance would mean landlords have to give more notice before increasing rent. Our Nicole Hernandez is joining us in the studio with what change the ordinance goes through.
So right now, landlords have to give renters 2 months notice for rent increases. That's the minimum by state law. If City Council passes this ordinance, that would at least double 4 months notice for increases 3% or less and 6 months notice for more than 3% increases. It all leads back to the same story.
More than 1/3 of Spokane residents are cost burdened.
From similar voices like Spokane City Council members.
I believe that housing is a human right.
Today, though, a new voice.
It was running all over the place.
Tyler Carlson, veteran Spokane landlord, says there's a bigger problem here.
The city's trying to solve the symptoms of an affordability issue without really looking at the root cause.
As always, comes down to supply and demand.
Even when things slow down in the winter, it's still not going to sit on the market for more than a couple weeks.
More demand than supply. Carlson says while this new ordinance would help tenants in the short term, it also could put landlords on the defensive.
They'll probably start to bake in those rent increases. They're going to try to insulate themselves the best way they can into what they're feeling is a threat.
Most of his clients aren't big corporations. They're families who own 1 or 2 extra homes.
And they're maybe making $100, maybe $200 a month, but those are costs that go to maintenance of the property, they go to paying their taxes, which have all gone up quite a bit in the last 5 years.
Those increases ending up coming out of renters' pockets. The ordinance says almost all Spokane renters pay more than the recommended 30% of their income to housing. And Councilmember Paul Dillon says 1/3 pay more than half of their income to housing.
Today I heard from a gentleman who his rent was $680 before the pandemic. Now it's $1,700.
Again, back to that same story. Spokane renters are struggling.
Really, at the end of the day, I think one thing that we do share between renters and landlords is to keep people in their homes.
This ordinance, while maybe not a full solution, would give people more time to find a new place to live if their rent goes up too much. The plan is for the City Council to actually vote on this ordinance in their next meeting. If it passes, these rules would start on June 1st. In studio, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Well, today 500 healthcare workers hit the picket line because of what they call unlawful labor practices. Picketing started outside Providence Sacred Heart Medical Center at around 2 o'clock this afternoon. But how did we get here? The latest union technician contract with Providence expired last year, and contract negotiations have been in the works since November. When both sides couldn't reach an agreement, the union voted to strike. We spoke with picketers today who said they didn't want it to come to this, but it's worth it.
I can't afford this. A week of this, they can't afford it either, but the statement is the message, and what we're trying to accomplish is way more important than a week of struggling to make payments on things.
Providence says they'll remain open and services will be available at the hospital during the strike. Picketers wrapped up at around 8:30 tonight. They say they'll be back out early tomorrow morning at 5:30. The strike is expected to last through the end of the month. Yesterday, we reported that Providence put up fencing ahead of the strike, and we got several calls wondering about the legality of the fencing and if it blocks sidewalk access. The city of Spokane told us in a statement that Providence did apply for a permit, but after seeing the fencing and some discussion, the fencing had to be moved so it would not obstruct the sidewalk. Now to a developing story out of West Richland. Richland police searching for a man suspected of shooting and killing a woman outside Wiley Elementary this morning and kidnapping his 1-year-old child. Police say 40-year-old Elias Huzer is a person of interest, rather. He's described as being 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighing about 170 pounds. This is video from the scene earlier today. Police say he's also suspected of killing another woman. Tonight they are searching for what police believe could be his car, a silver 2009 Toyota Corolla. Police said Huzer is considered armed and dangerous, Anyone who sees him is asked to call 911 immediately. And now to our night beat with a quick look at today's top stories. Gonzaga President Thane McCullough announcing today he'll be leaving the university after the next academic year. In an email to staff and students, he says, informing the community this early will allow the university ample time to find a successor by July of 2025. McCullough is a Zaga alum and began working at Gonzaga back in 1990. He was hired as the university's 26th president back in 2009. Today, he said, it's time to prepare the way for others to lead Gonzaga into its future.
I believe today that Gonzaga is in a much stronger position. It is poised for many wonderful new successes going forward, and I'm truly excited about the possibilities that lie before it.
Gonzaga University's Board of Trustees is currently preparing for the presidential search. Their next step is to appoint a search committee. An Idaho fisherman died over the weekend after he fell into the Coeur d'Alene River. The family told KREM 2's 70-year-old Tom Wise was fly fishing with his great-grandson on Friday when he slipped and fell into the water. The Shoshone County Sheriff's Office is now reminding people to be careful fishing and boating in rivers this spring. They say water levels are high right now. The water itself is extremely cold, and the current is a lot faster than it looks. And we are learning more about the house fire that killed one man and left 3 others critically injured over the weekend. That fire broke out in north central Spokane early Saturday morning. According to the Spokane Fire Department, the fire was accidental and caused by an electrical malfunction. Investigators found an extension cord in place of permanent wiring, they said. First responders declared one man dead at the scene. A woman and 2 children are currently in critical condition at the hospital. There is a GoFundMe for the family. You can find that on our website. Just head to KREM.com. And that was your night beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just head to our website. That's KREM.com. The nation's struggle with homelessness reached the Supreme Court today with arguments about whether a ban on people sleeping in one of Oregon's public parks is constitutional. The city passed that law back in 2018. It fines people nearly $300 for sleeping outside when shelter beds are available. Repeat offenders can be sent to jail for 30 days. Lawyers for the city argue the law is compassionate. Conservative justices seemed open to that logic, but the court's liberal justices question if the law criminalizes homelessness.
How does this law help deal with the complicated policy issues?
One of the most difficult challenges is getting people the help that they need, and laws like this allow cities to intervene.
What you do is say, only homeless people who sleep outdoors will be arrested. That's the testimony of your chief of police.
There's nothing in the law that criminalizes homelessness.
That's what you say, but if I look at the record and see differently, it's a different argument.
Before the appeals court struck down the measure, saying it violated the 8th Amendment because it punishes people for something they have no control over. A ruling from the justices is expected by the end of June. All right, switching gears to talk weather. The wind from the weekend is long gone, replaced by clear blue skies today. Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo to find out what's in store in the hours and days to come. Jeremy?
Well, it looks like we get one more cool morning before things start to change. Our temperatures are not dropping just yet. 51, but mark it because in 1 hour, I bet you it's quite a bit cooler because we got to get all the way down into the low 30s tonight. So it's likely we're dropping about 10 degrees in the next hour or something around there. It is going to be a cold one tomorrow morning. Widespread across the inland northwest, those temperatures diving down to near or below freezing. Deer Park, Newport, Sandpoint, anywhere off to the north, I would say even of Highway 2, you're down below freezing. It is going to be a cold one. Across the Palouse, right around it, similar story in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. By tomorrow afternoon, we are in the 60s, mid to upper 60s in eastern Washington, North Idaho, kind of in the mid 60s. Not looking too bad. Our next disturbance sits far off the coast. You got to go all the way up to the Gulf of Alaska to find our cloud cover. You got to go even farther to find our next storm. It doesn't show up in the next 3 days. Instead, it's temperatures in the upper 60s tomorrow, 67 on Wednesday, and near 60 on Thursday as that weather pattern starts to shift.
All right, sounds good. Jeremy, we'll check back in with you later in the